hopefully share with you. And
That's 10.
I'm really inspired about these first three. Let's go to the next session. 3, and keep going. All right, there we go. All right, next we're looking at, so we covered that a little bit there. The Passover was September 1st, 14th day. All right? We talked about how Christ fulfilled that. We'll see how he did a little clearly here shortly. All right. So, Feast of Unleavened Bread. First month, 15th day. So when did it start? The very next day, right? Feast of Unleavened Bread. All right. Go to the next slide. The Feast of Unleavened. Okay. What does leaven represent? That's what I'm referring to. All right. What does leaven represent? First of all, what was the big deal about not using leaven when they cooked and all that stuff, especially during the Exodus?
It took 2 hours to make.
All right. It took too long, right? All right. So haste. All right. You're in haste.
Huh?
Any thoughts? All right. What else does leaven represent?
In a way, yeah.
All right. Is that from experience? Just kidding. Yeah, I'm feeling you there. All right. Sin, leaven. Okay. Those kind of things. The Feast of Unleavened Bread. And the thing is, did Christ actually fulfill it in his whole life? Because if we look at it, it'll be consistent all the way through how he fulfilled, how he lived out, how he did these things for himself and in himself. Connected Passover and the wage sheaf and beyond with a hasty deliverance from slavery. Okay? All right, we'll start the next day. And I just find it, the one who knew no sin became sin. All right? But he was a sinless one. And in that, believe it or not, when God sees you, he sees the same thing. The sinless one. And you might go, that's not what I see. But that's what God sees. As we've covered the doorposts, as we've invited the sacrifice in place of our own, let's not think about that just for a minute and take that to heart. That it's good. He looks at it and says, good. And has a big smile on his face. And he doesn't look at you like, you're just a little sinner person, you're dirty and real evil, and I just need to fix you. But he thinks you're great. Alright? The Feast of Unleavened Bread. Let's look at the next slide here. Sunset began the 15th day of Nisan. Jesus was buried just in time for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But in the grave his body did not decay or see corruption. That Passover, the sinless unleavened bread of heaven, was revealed as a long-awaited perfect sacrifice for sins. Okay? The sinless one. Go to the next one. He fulfilled and was the feast of unleavened bread in his life. Okay? Any questions about that? You convinced? Maybe? All this has a really huge point that you'll find out tomorrow with this. I'm really headed somewhere with it, so don't mind this tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. And another thing is, there's not a lot of detail given about some of these things, what to do. There's really not. And in order to find more details on how to keep these feasts and stuff, you have to go to a certain place, which would be rabbinical writings, Torah and other things, to actually find out how to do it. But then, when you look at those, they were all different anyway. Exactly what you do. Right? So, the point. That's the main thing. That he was and lived that out. The wage sheaf. Alright, let's go to the next one. Alright? The feast of waving of the sheep. Prayed 3 days after Passover. Alright? That's a great one. Let's go to the next one. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you enter the land which I am going to give to you and reap its harvest, then you shall bring in the sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. Alright, in short, what were they supposed to do? What's that? Give tithe. Hey, that's a good point. I like you. I'm just kidding. No, give tithe. All right. For the harvest, the first fruits of... Yeah, go ahead, Jack. I'll let you talk.
They were to go out and cut sheep of grain and present it to the priest.
Okay? And what did the priest do with it? He had a whole bundle of it, right? You got It's like a celebration, right? They had all this stuff, and it was to celebrate the beginning of this. All right? The first fruits of the harvest. Right? Okay. That's what they did. Very important. Go ahead, the next one. He shall wave the sheep before the Lord. You be accepted on the day after the Sabbath. The priest shall wave it. Now on the day when you wave the sheep, you shall offer a male lamb. All these things had to do with sacrifice and stuff also. They were supposed to do these things. And, keep going. The wave sheep. 1 Corinthians 15:20. All right? Christ is risen from the dead, and he's become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. Okay? So that Christ, as he was the Passover lamb, the one that died, and was that lamb that died, and that he also lived out the unleavened bread, he also became, in his life, in his resurrection, is now the first fruit of everyone who would be resurrected one day. Who's the first one? Okay? So it was a prophet. It wasn't just something that they were supposed to do and go like this. They were looking forward, and should have been looking forward to a day when whoever this was would come and would die and be rose up again. Right? Which gives hope to everyone else. I think Paul said, if there's no such resurrection, then we're all kind of, what's that, miserable? Wretched? Whatever it might be. Yeah.
He also told Mary not to touch him yet, and then himself to his father yet.
Oh, snap. Okay, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow, because that's pretty cool, actually. We'll get into that. So, yeah, he hasn't yet ascended. All right? So, but yeah, here's the first group. All right? Let's go to the next one. Big picture. Is that a big picture? No, it's not. All right. Prophesied the resurrection of Christ 3 days after Passover. All right? So, remember when they started? If we go back and look at the slide again, we had Passover, and you feast on bread. 3 days later, first fruits. Christ died, was in the ground for 3 days, and resurrected. Yes?
I remember the story. Jesus said, I have to get to the Father. He wasn't presented as the first fruits. He was presented as the first fruits in heaven after his resurrection.
Okay. All right. So, when you stop and look at this and put all this together, let's go to the next one. The big picture is this. Keep going. Wow, that didn't come out good. Crucified on Passover, Nisan 14, 832 AD. Next slide. Buried on unleavened bread, Nisan 15, 32 AD. Next slide. Resurrected on the first fruits, Sunday, Nisan 17, 32 AD. When you stop and just think of those three things, how he lived those out in his life, a complete fulfillment of what they had been practicing for thousands of years had come to pass. And if there's one thing, okay, that's information, great, now I know that. But for me, it's always important, okay, God, how do I connect to that? And again, it's that he did it. You don't have to die for your sins. You don't have to make the sacrifice. Jesus did it for you. You don't have to be sinless, because he was the sinless one for you. You can't resurrect yourself. He's going to resurrect you. I mean, it's all about him and what he has promised and has done for us. And that's why Paul says everybody just has to shut up. Everybody's still under sin, and everybody, because it's all about him and what he did. And so as we look at some of these things tomorrow, you realize that, wow, it gets cooler. It becomes a lot more amazing with that, because these things happen. What else could happen? All right, what's next on the list of things to do when it comes to Passover, and how did Christ actually fill those out? We're going to find that out tomorrow. So I recommend tonight you go home and relax. Yeah, think on these things and rejoice. Rejoice. And take it to heart, because he's done it all for you. Any questions? Short, simple, and sweet. Doesn't explain everything. But again, if you want to know more about it, there's lots of books. You can Google it. Just be careful. And And,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyone have any questions? Does that make sense, though? It's death, burial, resurrection, all on the days that they were told to do these things. Pretty neat. Okay? And all at the right time. Yes? More than likely. Yeah.
What do you ask?
Yeah. For their Passover. Yeah. No, he saw in September. Yep. Yeah, it would have been in the fall. The fall was the beginning, remember, and then the springtime was the end of harvest. That's when they have early rains, latter rains, but the early rains were actually in the fall, and then the latter. So their seasons were a little bit different than ours. So, but yeah. It's kind of neat. All right, any questions, any other thoughts? That was easy. Alrighty then. Let me pray for you guys, okay? Dear Lord, thanks for everybody that came out here tonight and all that you've given us, everything that is good. Thanks for, again, I don't want to take it in slight. Thanks for suffering for us and knowing you hadn't done anything wrong, but you were willing to take all of my garbage and everyone in here's. Just thank you. We look forward to seeing you again. Until then, Lord, help us to keep learning to get your word and to find rest this day in Jesus' name. All right, thank you.